There are some stories that don't just scare you, they stay with you. Stories whispered from one traveler to another, passed down over the years. Tonight, I bring you one such tale, a story that many claim to be true. So sit back, turn off the lights, and listen closely, because not everything on the road is as it seems. I've been driving trucks for 22 years now. Hauled everything from cement to livestock, from Karachi to the highest roads in Pakistan. If you've been on the Karakoram Highway at night, you know what kind of road it is. Long, empty stretches of blackness with nothing but the mountains watching over you. We truckers, we have stories. Some are just tales to pass the time. Some are true. And some stay with you. This happened to me 8 years ago near Chilas. I was on a late-night run, heading towards Gilgit with a truck full of supplies. It was winter, late December maybe. The road was freezing, and the mountains were covered in a ghostly white. If your engine dies on these roads, you're as good as dead. No phone signal, no mechanics, just you, your truck, and the wind. That night, I was alone, no convoy. My radio had lost signal hours ago, and my thermos of chai was long gone. Around 2 a.m., I saw him, a man standing by the roadside. At first, I thought he was a stranded traveler, maybe a local, but something felt off. He was wearing simple clothes, a white shalwar kameez, completely drenched in water. I remember the way his clothes clung to his body, the way the cold wind should have been unbearable for someone that wet. But he just stood there, completely still, head slightly lowered. Now, any other road, I wouldn't have stopped. But up in these mountains, leaving someone stranded is a sin. So I slowed the truck and pulled up beside him. "Brother, what happened? Where are you headed?" No answer. He didn't even look up. The only sound was water dripping from his clothes, hitting the frozen road. Drip, drip, drip. Something in my gut told me to keep driving, but I asked again, "Brother, why are you standing here soaked in this cold?" Still no response, just standing there, dripping. That's when I noticed something. The road was dry, had been for hours. No rain, no snow, nothing. And yet the water on him was fresh, like he had just stepped out of a river. But there were no rivers nearby. A chill crept up my spine. Every instinct screamed at me to leave. So I did. I put the truck in gear and slowly started driving away. As I passed him, I stole a glance in the rearview mirror. That was my mistake. He was no longer standing. He was walking, not running, just a slow, steady walk, following my truck. His feet, bare against the frozen road, made no sound, only the dripping. Drip, drip, drip. I pressed the accelerator, heart pounding. But the road ahead was winding, and I couldn't go too fast without risking my life. For the next minute, I didn't dare look in the mirror again. I just focused on the road. But I could feel it, his presence. It's hard to explain, but I knew he was still there. Then, the worst happened. My truck stalled. The engine coughed, sputtered, and died. Just like that, in the middle of nowhere, my truck, a machine I had taken care of like my own child, betrayed me. I swore under my breath and reached for the ignition. As I turned the key, I made the mistake of glancing in the side mirror. He was closer, only a few feet away now, still walking, still dripping. His head was tilted downward, but I could just barely make out his face. It was pale, unnaturally pale. His lips moved slightly, as if whispering something, but no sound came out. And his eyes, they weren't looking at me. They weren't looking at anything. Just blank, unfocused, like a dead man's stare. My hands were shaking as I twisted the key again. "Bismillah, Bismillah," I muttered, voice trembling. The engine refused. He was closer now. I could hear it, the water dripping onto the road, onto the side of my truck. Drip, drip, drip. I did the only thing I could. I shut my eyes and started reciting Ayatul Kursi, over and over. Hands gripping the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles turned white. Then suddenly, the engine roared back to life. I slammed my foot on the pedal, nearly losing control as the truck lurched forward. I didn't dare look back, didn't care if he was still there. I just drove like hell. It was another hour before I reached the next truck stop. When I stumbled out of the truck, my legs barely held me up. The tea seller there, an old Pithin, saw my face and knew something was wrong. "You look like you've seen a ghost," he said, pouring me a cup of chai. I didn't say anything, just sat there trying to stop my hands from shaking. After a long silence, the old man spoke again. "You saw him, didn't you?" I looked up. "Who?" "The dripping man." A cold shiver ran through me. "You know about him?" The old man nodded, sighing. "We all do. Some say he was a traveler who fell into the river years ago and was never found. Others say he's been here longer than any of us. But one thing is certain, those who stop for him never reach their destination." I didn't finish my chai. That night, I made one promise to myself: never drive alone on the Karakoram at night again. And to this day, whenever I drive that road, I keep my eyes on the road ahead. I never stop, and I never look in the mirror.